Hey guys, it's Vornskyr here, and today we're back in Elite Dangerous, and I'm doing a little bit of Imperial Clipper trading, and I'm also going to talk about various things like Steam keys and Powerplay Beta dates and all that good stuff. So this footage I recorded just then. Basically I just finished recording it. I traded for about half an hour, so not very long. Generally in Elite trading you would go for a fair bit longer than just half an hour, but that's all I really wanted to do, if I'm honest. And yeah, so I was just using the clipper. You can see what I'm doing at the moment is outfitting it. Of course, the really good thing about Elite is that you can basically change your outfitting whatever, outfits. Like I'm going to wardrobe and just getting a new loadout for my ship. But that's basically what you're doing, I guess, sort of. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But yeah, the good thing about Elite is that you can change what you're doing at any time, really. And as long as you're at a system or at a station that has a wide range of parts, you can basically get all those parts back at absolutely no additional cost. You know, you don't lose any money when you sell parts or whatever. So I can go for a trading loadout in my clipper, and then tomorrow I can go back to a combat loadout, and it won't actually cost me anything because I'll keep getting the same amount back when I trade stuff in. So I think that made sense, sort of. But anyway, that's a really good thing about this. So it means you're not limited in what you can do, except for by what your ship's capabilities are. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so what I've done with this, you've probably seen, I put in a pretty big cargo rack, and I went down to an A3 shield. I wanted to keep some shielding capabilities because I am playing in open mode, and the Clipper is also a big ship. That means you do run into things every now and then, whether you mean to or not, especially if you're not careful. And sometimes even if you are careful, you might see that near the end of the video. And it's also why you'll see me running 4 pips to the system settings when I'm entering stations and leaving stations, because that actually, basically, I don't remember the exact figures, but I think having 4 pips to your systems basically doubles your shield capacity. So that's pretty useful when you're in a situation like this where you're running a shield that's far too small for your ship, basically. You still get a bit of protective abilities or whatever. So yeah, I don't normally use that in combat because I'd rather have the pips to the weapons so that I get my, better firing rates, or not firing rates, but you can fire for longer, or engine speed. I generally find that those are more useful, but for this specific situation, I think it was pretty good. So anyway, so that's that. So the the trading will just be going on in the background, but let's talk about the stuff that I actually want to talk about. So we'll start off with Steam keys. There's been an update a couple of days ago on the forums, which is saying that Steam keys will be offered to anybody who has bought the game from the Elite Dangerous store or from Kickstarter, and anybody in the future who buys the game from the Elite Dangerous store will also receive a Steam key. So that's pretty cool. I don't think they've said when it's going to happen, but they have confirmed that it is going to happen. So basically, anybody, I think if you've bought Elite, unless you bought it on eBay or something, I suppose, from some reseller, I don't even know if that's happening, to be honest. But if you've bought Elite from the store, or if you backed it on Kickstarter, you should get a Steam key. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, there's no need to use the Steam key if you don't want to. The game will still launch through, you'll just start it from Steam, but it'll still go through the Elite servers and the Frontier servers and all that sort of thing. So if you don't want to use Steam, you don't have to. But a lot of people do want to use Steam, and so this is good. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. That's not a whole lot more to say about that, really, because there's no date or anything that's been announced for. There's no... Oh wait, there is actually. I'm completely blind. From May 28th, so the end of the month, and you'll actually get the Steam key from your account page, and they'll also be doing instructions. It's a good thing I kept reading that, because I'm completely missed that. Anyway, so that's a pretty cool thing. So that is pretty awesome. And the other thing we saw in the latest newsletter, newsletter number 74, there'll be a link to that in the video description, but the beta test date for the Powerplay update, that's update 1.3, has been announced, and that is May 20th, so that's also near the end of the month. And so that's going to be really interesting, so we'll get to see a bit of how Powerplay works, probably the new ships as well. If they do it like they've done previously, the ships will be fairly discounted, probably like 100 credits or something, so that anybody can test those out. And yeah, that's really cool. There's also been a image released of kind of what the Powerplay Galaxy map looks like. And what I mean by that is, it's basically showing the human occupied space broken up into its control by the various powers. So it's basically a bunch of different colored blobs with different systems obviously being controlled by different people. So it's worth taking a look at. And you can see there are a fair few different powers by the looks of it. I can see, what's that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 8, I think. I don't know, I'm just counting really quickly at the moment. But yeah, so that's basically across the whole sphere, or whatever you want to call it, of human occupied space, obviously, which is a fairly small part of the universe at the moment. But yeah, so if you want to have a look at that, that is in the newsletter, so that's pretty interesting. One other thing that was mentioned is an update about how cheating and that sort of thing will be handled. Basically what Frontier can do about it when they detect it, or when players report it. As they're basically going with the same sort of system that a number of online games have started going in these days. So, you know, the most minor stuff gets a warning, where more serious stuff gets what they call a shadow ban. And shadow banning is when the players can still play the game, but they're on a server that's basically full of other cheaters. I think GTA 5 is one of the more recent games that's done that. And basically the idea is that the cheaters can continue to play the game, but they won't be able to influence the background simulation of the galaxy or anything like that. Or, well, I'm not sure actually. It's what the wording actually says is that they won't be able to have any influence on the galaxy simulation or on our honest players. So they may have their own background simulation, but it's more likely they won't have anything at all. So I guess, you know, if you want to contribute to all the background simulation and that sort of thing, don't cheat, I guess. And they do say that they have the option of perma-banning as well. But I think that would have to be pretty serious to do that. So it seems that the more exploity sort of things, like cheating or hacking or just game exploits, may get you shadow banned. But what they mean by more serious stuff is, you know, harassment, I guess, death threats, or, you know, that sort of thing. That sort of stuff will get you perma-banned, which personally I'm okay with. I think that's fairly reasonable. But yeah, so that's all pretty good. So that's the big news that's come out over the last few days. There's not a whole lot more to say about that at the moment. So yeah, I guess we'll just continue on with my trading in this. And you might notice I haven't really been making a whole lot of profit or anything from this trading route. It was just one of those spur of the moment sort of things where I just started from Quivira, I think that's how you'd say that. That was one of the systems where there was a community goal going on. So the community goal there has finished. So I just, you know, started trading, I guess. And yeah, I used the elite trading tool, which I use a fair bit when I do trading because it makes life easier. But yeah, the systems around me weren't particularly great. There wasn't any real good trading routes. I thought that I had found one that was going to be pretty good, but it looks like somebody else had already found it as well, which is why I basically couldn't buy any palladium at that place. I actually bought out the remainder of the palladium and had to buy some gold as well. So that could have had the makings of a good trade route, but I'd say somebody else had found that as well, which does happen, especially when you're around the more busy areas of the game. You know, you got to remember you're not the only person going to all these stations and stuff and buying up the supply. So it's very easy to lose out on a good trade route, even if you think, like, even if you're the only person around that you can see, there may still be other people, you know, doing it in private groups or solo mode or whatever. But yeah, so that was a little unfortunate, but whatever. We still made decent money. Given that I was only doing it for about half an hour, I don't actually know how much I made, but it was easily 500,000-600,000 credits, so that was worth doing. And it's kind of hard to say, but I think it's around the same as I would have earned in that period of time at a resource extraction site or something. And it's, you know, given that I didn't really spec the Clipper out for hardcore trading, you know, I kept all the weapons on it. I didn't have an A5 frameshift drive at that time. I actually bought one at the end of the video, or when I finished recording. So, you know, I was limited to about 12.2 light years of jumping, I think, which is not very great. So it meant I had to do a fair few jumps and that sort of thing. But yeah, so I had the Clipper set up more as a multi-purpose sort of setup. You know, it still had all its weapons, its shields, and all that sort of thing. So I think it handled the trading pretty well. I mean, I've actually heard or read somewhere on the forums that the Clipper is referred to in the game files as the Imperial Trader. I don't know how true that is. I haven't gone looking through the files myself to see that, but it does seem like a fairly fitting description. It's definitely a good trading ship, as long as you know, set it up properly. It does have the limitation that it can only land on the large platforms. A number of the larger ships in the game suffer from that. The Python doesn't, which is why that's often regarded as a far better multi-role ship. It also has more cargo capacity, I think. But yeah, so you will find yourself being unable to land on platforms which is kind of unfortunate, but you just have to work around it really, and you have to be careful accepting missions as well, because I think I've mentioned this before, if you accept a cargo delivery mission to a platform and then find out that you can't land on the platform, you're basically screwed. You just have to dump that mission and take the reputation hit. So that's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, so all in all, it was pretty decent. It handled the trading really well. It didn't have any issues with overheating or anything like that, even doing a number of jumps in a row. You won't see any of that because I've cut all the super cruising and that sort of thing out of the video. Because really, we all know what super cruise looks like. We spend most of the time in Elite doing super cruise, or at least I think I do. So yeah, I don't think there's much point showing that off. But yeah, it handled the jumps easily, because I think I've got a pretty big power plant, and obviously I wasn't really using much of that power plant with this setup, I don't think. So yeah, it didn't have any problems overheating or anything. You might notice as well that I kept the fuel scoop on the ship. There wasn't really a need for that, but I find with the small fuel tank of the Clipper, it's just kind of a safety net sort of thing. So even if you never use it, it's one of those things that I kind of like having. But I do think when you're using the Clipper for trading and when you're doing a number of jumps, your best bet is to just refuel every time you dock at the station, especially because fuel is so cheap now. It used to be a few months ago, before one of the updates, it was a lot more expensive. Like you know, the largest sort of ship that you got, I think there was some sort of multiplier tied to the ship as to how much fuel would cost, but that seems to have been removed. So fuel is very cheap, so there's basically no excuse for not buying it anymore, I don't think, unless you're trying to maximize your jump range by having less fuel in the tank, which can work, but it's a bit fiddly doing that anyway. But I'm just kind of rambling on about fuel at this point. So yeah, but I think I'll end this one here. So that's a bit of Clipper trading, it's a bit of Elite news, it's a bit of me talking shit for hours on end to absolutely no purpose. But yeah, so until next time, I've been Vornskyr, hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.